So good morning everyone. Yesterday we discussed what IAM services is. We have finished what it is. The main goal of IAM, identity and access management, is to provide security and identity for our services that we provide to a cloud consumer. Nowadays, most of the people around us have a doubt about cloud security. Most of them think that cloud is not secure. That is the reason why most of the banks haven't moved to cloud yet. So it is our duty to make them believe that cloud is secure. As we are the cloud providers and we are managing with this AWS, Amazon Web Services Management Console, we have to make them believe that AWS is the most secure one, and it is most secure compared to anything in this world. Let us today learn what are the best practices for optimum cloud deployment and what are the security measures that we cloud providers can provide to our cloud consumers through this AWS, Amazon Web Services. So to provide security, there are two different things. One is, first we have to provide them security to the resources they ask for accessing, and the second one is we have to monitor those resources whether they are working or whether there is any vulnerability in that resources. So in order to do that, there are two major services in Amazon Web Services. One is security, identity and compliance, and the other one is management and governance. The first one, security, identity and compliance, is something that we use for providing our consumers with security, and this management and governance helps us to monitor the resources we are providing to our consumers. So far we discussed the security thing, that is IAM, identity and access management. We saw what are the different things present in that, like users, roles, groups, and we also saw how to create a policies for our IAM, identity and access management. So today we'll be learning the one AWS responsibilities and security attributes. For that, we have to first move on and let us first learn what is AWS, Amazon Web Services Shared Responsibility Model. So Amazon Web Services Shared Responsibility Model is of two things. Is divided into this is Amazon Web Services Shared Responsibility Model is divided into two sections. One is security in and the second one is security off. Coming to security of the cloud, we take measures that the cloud service provider AWS implements the operators. And in security in the cloud measures, we take measures that the customer implements and operates related to the security of customer content and applications that make use of AWS services. And moving on, AWS service responsibility model. The shared responsibility model defines which security controls are AWS's responsibility and which are our responsibility. Generally, the whole services or things in the present in the AWS Web Services console are divided into two things in this shared responsibility model. One is the things which we customers or the customers control, and the second one is the things which Amazon Web Services control. So as you can see here, the customer data or platform or applications identity and access management, operating system, network and firewall configuration, client data encryption and the data integrity authentication, server side encryption, network traffic protection, all these are customer responsibility for security in the cloud. While as this compute, storage, database, networking, regions, availability zones, edge locations, all these are AWS responsibility for security of the cloud. While this is security in the cloud and this is security of the cloud. So what we learned is AWS shared model is defined into two categories. One is security of the cloud and the other one is security in the cloud. While as the measures that the cloud service provider implements and operates are security of the cloud, and measures that the customer implements and operates related to the security of customer content and applications that make use of AWS services is security in the cloud. So if you want something clarity, here is the thing. Things like customer data platform, operating system, network, firewall configuration, client-side data encryption, all these are customer responsible for security in the cloud. And the things like compute storage, database networking, and AWS global infrastructure like regions, availability zones, edge locations are managed, and these are AWS, Amazon Web Services responsibility for security of the cloud. I hope everyone is clear with this shared responsibility model, AWS shared responsibility model. If you have any doubt, you can ask me now. So there is an exception in this AWS shared model, that is the exceptions to this are AWS managed services like RDS, relational database service, DynamoDB, and Redshift. These does not apply into any of the customer or AWS web services, because whenever we use this, whether we might be providing, whether customer could be handling them, or sometimes Amazon Web Services could be handling them. So this is the exception in AWS shared responsibility model. I hope everyone is clear. Do you have any doubts? Moving on to the second thing, that is AWS, Amazon Web Services platform compliance. This platform compliance, it ensures that our data is completely secure, and AWS is the most secure in the world. AWS takes cloud security and compliance seriously, and it has encryption in this, and it prevents hackers from attacking the resources present in the Amazon Web Services. Generally, what Amazon does is it invests a huge amount for resources, and looks that all the things present in the all the resources present in the Amazon Web Services are secure. So this platform compliance ensures that all the data or all the resources present in the Amazon Web Services is secure and cannot be hacked or taken by someone else. So these are some certifications, laws, regulations, and privacy, and allegations or frameworks, alignments or frameworks, which plat compliance ensures. And in order to uh, produce a resource in Amazon Web Services, it has to certified from these things like ISO or FIPS or FED, FedRAMP, and it has also to undergo this through this laws. It has to satisfy these laws and regulations, and it also has to do these alignments and frameworks in order to be a resource in Amazon Web Services. So what this platform compliance does is it ensures that the security in the cloud, AWS cloud, is complete. So that's about AWS platform compliance. I hope everyone is clear. If you have any doubt, you can ask me now. Moving on, we have to now discuss about the security attributes, details of AWS security attributes. The first one is infrastructure as a service. I told you there are three different service models. Can anyone define what are those three different service models? Yeah, they are infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. Out of this, the security attributes, infrastructure as a service. In infrastructure as a service, I told you compute comes under infrastructure as a service. Whether it might be EC2 or S3 and VPC are completely under customer control, and we have to perform all the security configuration and management tasks. It is our duty to protect our EC2 instances or S3 buckets or the VPC virtual private clouds. Here you can see these are the users who are accessing Amazon EC2 or Amazon S3 or Amazon VPC, and it is solely their responsibility to control or to access these, and it is not Amazon Web Services responsibility. So that's the reason we are provided with security groups, network ACLs, access control lists in these EC2, S3 and VPC. So that is how in infrastructure as a service, it is customer control and we have to perform all the security configuration and management tasks. Moving on to the second thing, storage. AWS has a decommissioning process that is designed to prevent customer data from being exposed to unauthorized individuals. So in AWS, we have numerous customers accessing our data. What we does is these customers are not provided with original copy of what they are given. Whether it might be a volume or it might be a bucket data, they are not provided with the original volume. What they are provided is they are provided with a virtual disk, and they can only see the data or read the data through this virtual disk. What this ensures is this ensures that our data is not exposed to unauthorized individuals. Understood, right? So yes, the next one is network. AWS protect against DDoS and man in the middle attacks, IP spoofing, port scanning and packet sniffing. Or AWS takes care of all the threats in the network like DDoS or man in the middle attacks or IP spoofing or port scanning and packet sniffing. It prevents IP spoofing by host-based firewall infrastructure. This is the host-based firewall infrastructure, and this ensures that there is no IP spoofing to our data or to our network. We have access control lists, as we saw in VPC while creating a VPC, virtual private cloud, a network ACL, we saw that, right? So we have those access control lists, ACLs, so as to minimize risk of hacking. So through this ACLs, we can ensure that there is no hacking to our data, and we can store some in private subnet. Like I told you why we use private subnet. Private subnet we use when the resources present in our VPC does not require an internet connection. So we can protect our instances or resources in a private subnet, and we can use this Boston Bastion servers to access that resources or instances present in the private network. So that's about this network. So what we have is we have access control lists, we have security groups so as to prevent hacking, and we have host-based firewall infrastructure to protect from IP spoofing and DDoS, and we have Bastion servers in order to store our data or resources or instances in a private subnet. So that's about network. Moving on, to EC2 provides a firewall solution that is configured in a default deny all mode. It is we who have to open the port we required for applications. If you want a HTTP, then we will be opening a port related to it. If you want RDP, then we will be opening a port related to it. If you want something else, then we will be opening the port related to it. So EC2 provides a firewall solution that is configured in a default deny all mode. At first, everything is denied, and we have to open that by giving a default port to that EC2 instance according to the configuration. So that was all about the security attribute network. Moving on, there are vulnerability scans, and we have to request permission in advance to perform vulnerability scan, and we have a limit to our own instances. So what we have to do is we have to request Amazon for performing this vulnerability scans. So moving on, Amazon corporate segregation. Many of people ask whether our resources are segregated or not. So AWS network is segregated, as AWS network is segregated from the Amazon corporate network using network security and segregation. You can see how this segregation here works. Now here there are different users or different instances running on the same machine, and they are used using hypervisor. There is a firewall. Firewall is also in hypervisor layer between physical interfaces and virtual interfaces. So any data to move from outside to inside, they have to pass through virtual interfaces first, and then there will be security groups, and if they satisfy the rules present in security groups, they'll be undergoing to firewall, and then they will be accessed in a physical interface. Vice versa, the packets moving from physical interfaces have to undergo the firewall, and then they have to satisfy customer security groups, and then they have to move through virtual interfaces, and then through hypervisor, and then they will be reached to customers, the end users who are using our data. In this way, a Amazon corporate segregation is done. So this is all about segregation. If you have any doubt, you can ask me now. Moving on to another thing, credentials. AWS provides multiple options to secure user credentials such as following. It provides us password policy, like we can set the password policy in order to make it is as most secure. We also have an option like MFA, multi-factor authentication, the 6-digit code we have to provide whenever a customer has to log in to access his resources. We also have access keys, which we discussed yesterday. We will be having a secured access key and access key ID. We also have key pairs, which we discussed yesterday, that is private key and public key. And through this, people can access our data. And we also have another option called X.509, which ensures these key pairs are secure. So these are the credentials present that AWS provides us in order to make our resources secure. Moving on to encryption, AWS provides the ability to encrypt with AES 256-bit. So data on EC2 instances or elastic balance EBS storage is encrypted. There is also an option called SSL termination. SSL termination is applied on load balancers. I told you what load balancers are. So SSL termination on load balancing is supported. Any traffic that passes between elastic load balancers and web servers is unencrypted, so the load is taken off them. So the first one we will reach encrypted data to elastic load balancer, and then it unencrypts it and sends it to a web server. So that's all about the security. Here is another thing, direct connect. We are also provided with a thing called direct connect, through which we can access and have a private network to our Amazon Web Services. Generally, what people do is they access their Amazon Web Services through this internet. In order to prevent this vulnerability and to have a private network, what we do is we use direct connect, and through the direct connect we can have a private network to Amazon Web Services. If you want a public network to S3, then you can do that, and we can also have a private network to EC2, Elastic Cloud Compute. So that's why we use direct connect, and AWS direct connect provides an alternative to using the internet to utilize AWS cloud services. So those were all the security credentials provided by AWS, Amazon Web Services. I hope everyone is clear. If you have any doubt, you can ask me now. So yes, so far we discussed the AWS. First one is AWS shared responsibility model, which is divided into two different things. One, security of the cloud and security in the cloud. Security of the cloud is something AWS responsibility for security, and security in the cloud is something which customers are responsible. Here you can see the shared responsibility model defines which security controls are AWS responsibility and which are our responsibility. Moving on, there is an exception for responsibility model, like when we are using databases like RDS, Relational Database Service, or DynamoDB or Redshift. We saw the platform compliance, which ensures security, and AWS pays a lot of amount for this to happen, and there are certifications, laws and regulations, and alignments and frameworks which resources have to fulfill in order to be a resource in AWS Web Service. Moving on to security credentials. In infrastructure as a service, it is customers' responsibility to control and perform all security configuration and management tasks like EC2, S3 or VPC, and Amazon Web Services does not involve in this. In storage, AWS has a decommissioning process that is designed to prevent customer data from being exposed to unauthorized individuals, and this is done by providing a virtual disk rather than an original copy. Moving on to network, the host based firewall infrastructure is provided for DDoS, and we can have stored our resources in private subnet. And AWS protects against DDoS and man-in-the-middle attacks, IP spoofing, port scanning, and packet sniffing. And EC2 provides a firewall solution that is configured in a default deny all mode, and we have to give the port in order to open our access. Coming to vulnerability scans, we have to request Amazon for performing vulnerability scans, and we have a limit to our own instances. AWS network is segregated and Amazon corporate network using network security and segregation. Here, a hypervisor is used to isolate the customers, and a firewall is present between virtual interfaces and physical interfaces. And through this, we can say that Amazon corporation segregation is done. Moving on to credentials, we are provided with different options like passwords, multi-factor authentication, access keys, key pairs, X.509, and these provides multiple options to secure user credentials such as things. Moving on to encryption, AWS provides the ability to encrypt with AES 256-bit, so data on EC2 instances or EBS storage is encrypted. Coming to SSL termination on load balancing is supported. Any traffic that passes between elastic load balancers and web servers is unencrypted, so the load is taken off them. Moving on to Direct Connect, AWS Direct Connect provides an alternative to using the internet to utilize AWS cloud services. So through Direct Connect, we can have a private network with Amazon Web Services. So that was all about a shared responsibility model, platform compliance, and security credentials. Moving on to the second topic of today, that is AWS CloudTrail. AWS CloudTrail is a web service that records AWS API calls for our account and delivers log files to us. I told you when we use this AWS CloudTrail, we use this in order to track the data or the information that a user is accessing with our resources. This information records includes identifier of the API caller, time of the API caller, source IP address of the API caller, request parameters, response elements returned by the AWS service. So the AWS API call history produced by CloudTrail enables security analysis, resource change tracking, and compliance auditing. So this was all about CloudTrail. We generally use the CloudTrail for performing or to track the data or to monitor the data what a user is accessing from our resources. This data includes, this tracking of data includes identity, time, source IP address, request parameters, response elements. So this was all about Amazon CloudTrail. So far we discussed the security. These are all the security parameters of AWS Web Services. Let us move on to something which we use for monitoring. The first one we use it is Amazon CloudTrail, and this I told you why we use CloudTrail. We use the CloudTrail to monitor the data we are using. So the second one here is AWS CloudWatch. This is also something we use for monitoring, and if we want alarms for if there is a breach or if there is a data access usage. So Amazon CloudWatch is a monitoring service for AWS cloud resources and applications we run on AWS. It has alarms in it. It sends us emails if something is out of our control. So let us see what does this CloudWatch provides. The first one is monitoring. Amazon CloudWatch is generally mainly used for two things. One, basic monitoring, and the second one is detailed monitoring. Coming to basic monitoring, it is free. It polls every 5 minutes and it can go up to 10 metrics and 5 GB of data ingestion and 5 GB of data storage. Moving on to detailed monitoring, it is chargeable, charged per instance per month and polls every minute. While as this basic monitoring is free and it polls for every 5 minutes, a detailed monitoring is chargeable and it is charged per instance per month and polls every minute. So that was about monitoring. Another thing that provides CloudWatch provides is metrics. AWS CloudWatch allows us to record metrics for EBS, EC2, ELB, and S3. Here are the things through which it might be a graphical data or it might be a uh, numeric data. So this metrics can be monitored using CloudWatch. Moving on to, it also provides a option called events. Events can be created based on CloudWatch monitoring. For example, we can trigger Lambda functions. If if some function related to Lambda is done, then CloudWatch sends us a email. Moving on, we can also perform logs. Logs install agents on EC2 instances to send monitoring data about the instance to CloudWatch. We also have a thing called alarms. We can set alarms to warn based on resource usage. For example, CPU utilization, if it is too high, if our CPU utilization is too high, then using CloudWatch, we can set EC2, we can set a alarm and we can send a email notification and we can also access EC2 auto scale. Let me give you a scenario. If our usage is more, then CloudWatch tracks that usage. It creates an alarm, it sends us and it activates EC2 auto scaling and the servers are scaled up according to the metrics we have monitored. So that was all about Amazon CloudWatch. I hope everyone is clear. If you have any doubt, you can ask me now. So CloudWatch is a monitoring service for AWS cloud services and applications that run on AWS. We can have different options present in this CloudWatch, like monitoring. There are two types of monitoring: basic monitoring, detailed monitoring. As basic monitoring is free and polls for every 5 minutes, whereas detailed monitoring is chargeable, charged per instance per month and polls every minute. Coming to metrics, AWS Cloud allows us to record metrics for Elastic Balance, EBS, EC2, Elastic Load Balancer, and S3, Simple Storage Service. So we also have an option called events. Events can be created based on CloudWatch monitoring. For example, we can trigger Lambda functions. We also have logs. Logs install agents on EC2 instances to send monitoring data about the instance to CloudWatch. We also have something called alarms. We can set alarms to warn based on resource usage. For example, CPU utilization is too high. If an alarm is on, then we receive an email notification. I gave you a scenario when we use alarms. So let us now see how to create this CloudWatch. For that, you have to move on to your Amazon Web Services Management console. And here in the service management and governance, we have an option, this service CloudWatch. Get into the CloudWatch service. Generally, this is a dashboard of CloudWatch where we can see here the alarms we sent and here. So first what we have to do is we have to create our own dashboard in CloudWatch. In all the services we saw, a dashboard is present, and what we have to do is we create instances or clouds or something according to our resources requirement. Now in dashboard, what we do is on the left side we have an option called dashboard. We click on that and we have here we can see create a dashboard. Click on create a dashboard. First, we have to give it a dashboard name. Then click on create dashboard. Here we have different options for monitoring our data, metricing our data. If you want it in lines, you can select that. We also have stacked area, numbers, text, logs tables, alarm status. So first I am selecting lines. Click on configure. So here we have to configure based on what we have to access our data. So yes, here we can select resources from our EC2 instances or everything. We have different options like graphed metrics, graphed options, sources, and all metrics. Here the data is stored, and here we can view what are the data present in our what is the usage of our instances. After selecting something, what you have to do is click on create widget. So here we have created a dashboard, that is BAIM dashboard. We can also add widgets. We can also perform actions like we can set a new dashboard, save this dashboard. By clicking on save dashboard, what we do is we have saved this dashboard. We can also edit it. Now, if we use something, if there is a data usage in this, then all the usage, metrics of all the usage will be showed here. So this is how we create a CloudWatch dashboard and monitor the metrics of all the data. Now, if you want to select, if you want to create an alarm for this one, what you have to do is on the left side we have an option alarms. Click on that. So here by clicking on create alarm, we have to select a metric. So as there is no usage for us, there is no metric, and here based on your requirement you have to give all the things, and by clicking on create you will be created with alarm. So what this alarm does is this alarm monitors according to our requirement, and whenever there is excess data usage, then it triggers alarm and sends us an email, and through this email it also activates EC2 auto scaling or anything that is automatically enabled. So that was all about CloudWatch. This is how we create a CloudWatch. To create a CloudWatch, you have to create a dashboard. Get into dashboard on the left hand side, click on create dashboard, and according to your configuration you can do that. You can also create alarm. You have an option alarms on the left side, and everything can be viewed here. So that's how we create a CloudWatch. And the second one we use to monitor is AWS Trusted Advisor. This is an online resource to help us reduce cost, increase performance, and improve security by optimizing our AWS environment. What this AWS Trust Advisor do is it helps us for finding how to reduce our cost, how to increase our performance, how to improve security by optimizing our AWS environment. Now, this AWS Trusted Advisor is categorized into three things. One is action recommended. The second one is investigation recommended. And the third one is no problem detected. So let us see what are the things provided by this AWS Trusted Advisor categories. So the first one is cost optimization. This cost optimization recommendations shows us recommendations on how to save money with AWS. Whether we have to use reserved instances recommendations or idle instances or unassociated elastic IP addresses, through which we optimize our cost. It also tells us something about security, how to improve security on our applications by closing gaps, enabling various AWS security features, and reviewing our permissions. In this security, AWS Trusted Advisor has unrestricted access to ports, S3 bucket permissions, multi-factor authentication on root account. The third one is fault tolerance. Through this, we can increase the availability and redundancy on our applications by taking advantage of auto scaling, health checks, multi-AZ, and backup capabilities. What this AWS Trust Advisor does in fault tolerance is it tells us age of snapshots, load balancer configuration numbers of AZs, S3 bucket logging for auditing. Coming to performance, AWS Trusted Advisor helps us to improve performance by checking our service limits. So we take advantage of provisioned throughput and monitoring for overutilized instances. We can have high utilization servers, service limits, EBS magnetic volumes that are overutilized. So that was all about Trusted Advisor. So using what we can do, I hope everyone is clear. What we can do with this Trusted Advisor is we can have we can know how to reduce cost, how to increase our performance, how to improve security by optimizing our AWS environment. The three categories in this are action recommended, investigation recommended, and no problem detected. It provides us cost optimization, security, fault tolerant, and performance. So this was all about Amazon AWS Web Services Trusted Advisor. This is free of cost provided, and you can access this in Amazon Web Services. Let us see how to do this. You have to get into your Amazon Web Services Management Console. Here in management and governance, we have an option called Trusted Advisor. This is free of cost. While you get into Trusted Advisor, we are provided with different things here. By getting into this, we can see how to cost optimize, how to increase our performance, how to provide security, what to do when there is a fault, and what are the service limits present in our things. So this is the dashboard of Trusted Advisors. If you want to do something related to cost optimization, you have to get into that. And if you want to increase your performance, you can do that. You can also upgrade. Here are the options how you can increase your performance. Similarly, you can also see different options on how to increase security, what to do when there is a fault, and what are the service limits. So this was all about Trusted Advisor, AWS Trusted Advisor. So yes, I hope everyone is clear. If you have any doubt, you can ask me now. So today we have discussed something that is related to security and monitoring. This we do because most of the people around us think that the cloud is not secure, but we as a cloud providers has to ensure that our AWS is completely secure. To do that, we have two different services. One is security, identity, and compliance, and the other one is management and governance. We discussed today what is AWS shared responsibility model, which tells what are the things that are managed by customer and what are the things that are managed by Amazon Web Services. Cloud off and cloud in are the two things present in AWS shared responsibility model. The second one we discussed is AWS platform compliance. We saw that AWS invests a huge amount, and there are certain certifications, rules and regulations, and alignment and framework which resources have to satisfy in AWS. Moving on to security credentials, we discussed infrastructure as a service, storage, network, and different things. Vulnerability scans, SSL termination, Amazon corporate segregation. The Amazon corporate segregation is done through network ACLs and network security. There are hypervisors present, and there is a firewall between virtual interfaces and private interfaces. Moving on to the monitoring, we discussed three important things: CloudTrail, CloudWatch, and Trusted Advisor. CloudTrail is something we use when we require to monitor the services. This is also present here. When we require to monitor the things, then we use CloudTrail. The second option we have is CloudWatch. This is also used for monitoring, and it provides us with different options like alarms, logs, events, metrics, and monitoring. Moving on to the third one is trusted advisor. A trusted advisor is something that helps us on how to reduce our cost, how to increase our performance, and how to improve security by optimizing our AWS environment. We saw how to create a CloudWatch, how to create a trusted advisor. So moving on to CloudWatch monitoring, there are two types. One is basic monitoring, which is not chargeable, and it happens for every 5 minutes. And there is a detail monitoring, which is charged, and it happens for every minute. So that was all about security and monitoring. Tomorrow we'll be discussing a new topic. That's all for today. If you have any doubt, you can ask me now. So yeah, that's all for today. Thank you.